Dear viewers, today, I invite you to step behind the curtain of global power, into the stormy heart of Washington, D.C., a place where alliances are fleeting, loyalty is negotiable, and betrayal is often dressed in diplomatic smiles. Something extraordinary has happened. In just under 3 months, U.S. President Donald Trump seems to have completely lost patience with a man who was once one of his closest foreign allies, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The question on everyone's mind: what happened? Why the sudden collapse? Whispers from deep inside the American political machine point to a dramatic falling out, triggered by a man named Michael Waltz. Once considered a top-tier advisor, some even calling him Israel's shadow within Trump's inner circle, Waltz was abruptly dismissed from his position as Trump's senior security advisor. In what appears to be a hasty, almost forced maneuver, he was reassigned to the United Nations as the U.S. permanent representative. A diplomatic demotion dressed in elegant disguise. But why? What did Trump discover? Sources suggest that Trump realized something explosive. Michael Waltz may have been acting as a covert Israeli asset. And once that realization sank in, it wasn't just Waltz who was exiled. Entire bridges were burned, overnight. Netanyahu, who had arranged private meetings with Waltz during his last visit to Washington, became a suspect. Not legally, but strategically. It appeared he had been orchestrating pressure campaigns through Waltz to force Trump into pro-Israel policies that weren't necessarily in America's best interest. But Trump, say what you will about him, came from the business world. He has a nose for loyalty and perhaps an even sharper instinct for betrayal. He can sniff out a double agent in his sleep. And once he made up his mind, he didn't flinch. Waltz was gone. And though Trump may never say it aloud, the message to Netanyahu was crystal clear.
Check.
You will pay for this.
Check.
Now brace yourselves, because what happened next changed everything. Without informing Israel, yes, without even a courtesy call, Trump entered into a private agreement with the Houthis in Yemen. Yes, the same Houthis who, armed by Iran, had been firing ballistic missiles at Israeli positions for months and targeting U.S. interests in the Red Sea. Trump told Israel nothing. The deal was simple. The Houthis would cease all attacks on American targets. In return, the United States would not retaliate. And Israel? Well, that wasn't part of the conversation. When Israel found out, panic ensued. "What's going on?" they demanded. Trump's response? Shrugging it off, saying, "Don't worry, I've made my deal. They won't touch us." "But what about us?" Israel asked. Trump's answer was chilling. "If they attack you, we'll talk about it later." In that moment, the Israeli establishment, and more broadly, the global Zionist lobby, realized something terrifying. Donald Trump had changed. No longer the obedient partner, no longer the political asset. He had turned, and he wasn't done yet. Just yesterday, a new deal emerged, this time with Hamas. Yes, Hamas. An official statement from the group declared that an American citizen, Eden Alexander, who was being held hostage in Gaza, would be released. Why? As a gesture to the United States, not to Israel, not as part of a broader hostage exchange. This was a solo move, a direct line between Hamas and Washington, likely brokered via Egypt or Qatar. Eden Alexander, an American by passport but reportedly wearing an Israeli army uniform when captured, was set for release on May 13th. Hamas made it clear, no wider deals, no group negotiations, just this one American. A signal to Washington. And what did Israel do? They stood stunned. At the same time, Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff landed in Israel. If a broader ceasefire could be reached within 24 hours, Trump himself was expected to arrive, posing for the cameras with Netanyahu and the freed hostage. A grand gesture, a statesman's moment, but then something even more shocking surfaced. According to Israel's Channel 12, during private meetings with the families of other American hostages, Witkoff directly criticized Netanyahu. He allegedly told them that the United States wanted to recover its citizens, but Israel wasn't ready to end the war. Let me repeat that. An American envoy accused Israel of deliberately prolonging the war. He went on to say, "We don't see any strategic military gains at this point, and yet Israel keeps going." He added that a window of opportunity for a broader diplomatic breakthrough was open, but quickly closing. And then, with stunning bluntness, he said, "We could have saved these hostages, but they want war." Coming from Trump's closest representatives, this wasn't just a jab, it was an accusation, a betrayal. Israel, meanwhile, issued statements through military sources insisting that if a ceasefire wasn't achieved before Trump left the region, they would launch a full-scale ground operation in Gaza. They warned the United States directly, Hamas will not dictate our timetable. We'll go to war if we have to. And as this chaos unfolded in Israel and Gaza, another secret door opened far away in Muscat, Oman. There, behind closed doors, Iranian and American negotiators began their fourth round of back-channel talks. The subject? Nuclear diplomacy. And more shockingly, Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, was reportedly present, face-to-face with Iranian officials, hammering out technical details, discussing a future agreement. Can you believe it? If this made you rethink everything you thought you knew, hit like. Want more truths that don't make the headlines? Subscribe, and we'll take you deeper. And tell us, what do you see happening next? Drop your theory in the comments. Donald Trump, a man often seen as the embodiment of pro-Israel U.S. policy, was now holding direct nuclear discussions with Iran, cutting deals with Hamas, and shaking hands with the Houthis. And Netanyahu, he was being left out in the cold. Think about it. Trump, the man who once called Netanyahu his brother-in-arms, is now politically punching him in the face. Why? Because Netanyahu made a fatal mistake. He tried to outmaneuver Trump. He used Trump's inner circle. He placed someone he thought he could control, Michael Waltz, right next to the most powerful man in the world, and it backfired. You see, nation-states operate by unwritten codes. And if you try to turn a world leader's trusted advisor into your own covert asset, especially if you do it with bribes, promises, or hidden favors, there's a price to pay. And when that gets exposed, the hammer comes down. This is not just about diplomacy anymore, it's personal. And Netanyahu, once praised as the strategic genius of the Middle East, may have outsmarted himself. What we're witnessing is more than a policy shift. It's a geopolitical earthquake, a fracture in the old order, a realignment that could redraw alliances for decades to come. Ironically, this entire dynamic may open a unique opportunity for countries like Turkey, if they're sharp enough to read the signs. Because while Washington, Tehran, Tel Aviv, and Doha are reconfiguring their power maps, Ankara seems distracted, caught up in its own domestic agenda. But make no mistake, what's happening between Trump and Netanyahu isn't just a personal feud, it's the unraveling of a long-standing strategic relationship. It's the first crack in a global wall that once seemed unbreakable. And in international politics, cracks like these don't just grow, they collapse entire systems. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over.